Welcome to the Fantasy NASCAR podcast brought to you by RaceForThePrize.com. We got Texas salaries. Let's review, find the value plays we want to target, and the best point per dollar plays at the top. But first, remember RaceForThePrize.com. That's where you can get access to the Fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App some money over to me, and I will share the sheets with you. We got salaries. We got a price check. You know when this video comes out? It's almost the weekend. Let's get excited. And boy, are you excited about this. So we've got Kyle Busch. And spoiler alert, $14,500 is too cheap. He should be $16,000. We're going to have a lot more money to play with. It's much easier to build lineups. At $1,600, we were really looking at triple punts, and that's what I'm going to start with. I love playing Kyle Busch this week. I have no problem with it. End of story. You can argue about that later. We'll see how the weekend plays out. Now, when we play him, as we've talked about in the past, 20,000 or 2020 spring, 19 spring, you had what would be borderline called a triple punt. So let's just go ahead and explore the triple punt and look at the drivers we're going to target. Keith McGee is more than likely off the board. I don't really believe that you are going to need to go there. And speaking of you, thanks for joining me. Like, subscribe, share, recruit other people to join us. I really appreciate you being a part of this. I really appreciate you supporting my family by purchasing the sheets. This thing's growing. We got it going on. Thank you. And you probably don't need Keith McGee. The guys in the yellow are all going to be those possible triple punt category drivers. We'll talk more about them, from Loss Allen to Boyd to Moffitt. I know you're spitting in your car, you're vomiting a little bit in your mouth. It's very tough to swallow, but this is the situation when you have to play an expensive Kyle Busch that you're going to consider. Allen, Boyd, Thad Moffitt, Mason Massey. We've talked about Massey before. We like young trucks. Brett Holmes. We may be missing, I think Villanueva is going to be a late entry into the player pool, so we'll see while that happens. He's not official yet. Well, he's official for the race, but we haven't seen him in DraftKings, so not on your screen. We'll touch base on that. It's probably on the Friday 5 o'clock show. Brett Holmes, Daniel Dye. Daniel Dye's not that expensive. We'll talk more about that. Timmy Hill, Parsons, Connor Jones, Matt Mills. We'll explore all these options. Bailey Curry's probably going to jump up as the best. At 6,400, not much. We'll talk more about that in a second. Then you've got slightly better equipment with Garcia and Chris Wright. Now we're getting the guys that really are not helping us value-wise. Dean Thompson, Ty Dillon. Well, we don't like Ty Dillon anyway. And you'll see that I'm interested in Chase Purdy and Johnny Sauter. It just depends on the build. Real quick running through before we go a little bit deeper. Taylor Gray's way underpriced, as I've been saying on the podcast over and over. He is a dark horse champion. If you watch the other Truck Series podcast where I was breaking down your top tier, top 5 to top 10, Taylor Gray's in that. There is no reason whatsoever he should be at 7,600 in that Tricon truck. And then you got a whole giant chunk of drivers that are top tier drivers, and then you got Kyle Busch. So what we'll just jump to is what we must talk about building in terms of the triple punt. And so we'll just go ahead and start looking at this now of what a possible triple punt build can look like. These early projections and numbers that you have on your screen are very early based on driver rating rank. So take them, just don't really worry about them that much, okay? Take them with a grain of salt. When you look at these projections, I just needed something to kind of structure the drivers here. No big deal. Sometimes you get up before your alarm. Anyway, so Kyle Busch at the top. And then we're just playing around and seeing, okay, what's the triple punt look like? This isn't even the extreme one. This is one that's a little bit better. We got Bailey Curry at 64. We got Spencer Boyd at 53. Thad Moffitt at 54. We'll talk about Moffitt and Boyd in a second. Because I know you're saying, no way. No, not going to do it. Anyway, if you do build like this, if you can see on the screen, you have 9,200 left for 2 drivers. That's really not that bad. You get Busch, You can chase two expensive place differential drivers. You can basically get anyone that can fit into the top 5 almost. I mean, obviously, we're going to be kind of locked out a little bit, but still have 9,200 per driver. And you've got Bailey Curry with a little bit more of a spend up at value. Now, let's say we go real ugly. And not that Lawless Allen is super ugly. We've talked about playing Lawless Allen before. Lawless Allen has plenty of experience, etc. His Rayum truck isn't nearly as bad, and we've seen Rayum trucks perform in the past, occasionally, rarely, but occasionally. And we have seen Rayum truck perform in races where there are plenty of wrecks, which we expect there to be plenty of cautions at Texas and opportunities as long as Lawless Allen isn't the guy wrecking. But that's really a serious situation because we're taking a triple punt. We're really just trying to save with Moffitt and Boyd. And what they do is actually good for this situation. We want them just to finish the race, save us money so we can afford Busch. And that has been typically what Thad Moffitt and Spencer Boyd have done for their very, very, very small teams. Moffitt and Boyd's teams might as well be the Rayum, Norm Benning, J.J. Cobb teams of previous seasons. Not that they're absolute junkers, although they are. Not that they're a waste of time, which they are, but they are new teams trying to make it in this industry, and we need to, have sympathy for them as race fans, I suppose, that look, this is going to be their approach for a year or two. It's just get laps, build trucks, make it through a season. They're not trying to race every week. They're trying to stay in the industry and slowly grow. That's their model, and we have seen other teams do that in the past and be very successful at it. Some can't make it work, some can make it work, but Thad Moffitt and his brand new team is not supposed to be brand newish team is not supposed to go out there and race hard every week. Spencer Boyd and his Freedom FR8, whatever racing it is not supposed to go out there and race hard every week. It's to run laps, it's to get sponsors, it's to entertain sponsors in the infield, and to slowly build and grow. Lawless Allen's in a different situation. Lawless Allen is out there racing and running hard and trying to prove himself. And Rayum's already kind of been through that before. He's put in his years that Boyd and Moffitt are putting in now. And they feel like they're at a point where they can push a little bit more. And unfortunately, when they do push a little bit more, two things happen. Mechanical failures or wrecks. And that's not what we want with this build. We just want to save money, maximize points, and get to Busch. And then maybe nail our other two picks. Moffitt and Boyd, as crazy as the words that are about to come out of my mouth sound, feel safe. I know. Okay. Someone just wrecked their car. That was not very safe. I should have given you a trigger warning. But I'll go over the data and show you that, yeah, Moffitt and Boyd actually are pretty safe, but the upside, the ceiling is very low. Allen may have more potential, more upside. We're not really chasing that. We just need a safe floor, and being that his name is Lawless, it doesn't provide much of a floor. Anyway, if you did go with this build, as you can see on the screen, you got 98.50. You virtually can play whatever you want with this triple punt. And this would be the way to go if we end up finding one of these drivers that doesn't qualify very well. Or we also suspect that another guy is going to get a top 3 finish, run some fast laps, maybe lead a small portion. We can definitely get another one of those guys in it. And this isn't just some random build that I've come up with off the top of my head. Remember, we look back at the 20 spring race. We look back at the 19 spring race at Texas, where Busch has been in these races. And we have seen this at other races where Busch was extremely expensive. And we've seen a triple punt, right? Austin Wayne Self, Corey Roper, Cody Robaugh. Now, yes, we are familiar with those drivers. And those names are a little bit better these days. But if you were to rewind the clock to 2020, Robaugh was definitely a backpack driver in that field. Roper, absolutely. Now, an argument can be made for the Austin Wayne Self, Tim Self, Kevin Swinski type team, that 22, that they were a top 20 truck on a given week. but still was typically priced in the 5,900s. And I mean, if you really wanted to look at it and make a comparison to this race, Austin Wayne's Self would be your Bailey Curry in the build if you want to spin up a little bit more type of talent. And then you look at the 19th spring race again. We got Roper, we got Awuji and Cicerelli. So if Awuji and Cicerelli worked in the 2019 spring race, starting in the back, costing you nothing, finishing laps down, then you can play Spencer Boyd. Then you can play Thad Moffitt. There's really no difference. Once you accept that fact, it becomes a lot easier to deal with. All right, let's flip back over and let's talk about Moffitt. Let's talk about, not that you have to play these guys, because as I mentioned, you had plenty of salary. We can slide up to some safer options, which I think you probably should consider. But I will talk about these guys because I don't know if you're going to get much analysis anywhere else about Lawless Allen, Spencer Boyd, and Thad Moffitt. And they provide the maximum amount of savings. We'll start with Thad Moffitt because the truth is you probably are not going through Thad Moffitt data, and more power to you. You're living a life that I wish I was living. Let's be honest. You're probably not wasting your time on Thad Moffitt research. So I will make it quick so you don't. He has a lead lap finish at Martinsville in Las Vegas. He ran 246 of the 250 laps at Bristol. Did he run well at Coda? Don't care. But we have a small sample size of races. Lead lap finish at Martinsville. That's pretty good. If we can get a lead lap finish out of him at Texas, I'll take it. He finished on the lead lap at the intermediate track in Las Vegas. If we can get that at Texas, I'll take it. 246 laps at Bristol is nothing to just completely dismiss. If we are just looking for a floor, we are looking for a driver that's going to go out and finish the race. We're looking for a driver that's going to avoid chaos at Texas. 246 at Bristol, avoiding the chaos at Bristol. If you can, pass that test, think he's going to pass this test, he'll go out there, mind his own business, and he's more than likely not going to be involved in some of the chaos and stupid things that happen at Texas and all the wrecks. And it's almost like this is a Daytona type of approach where we see wrecks at Texas up front. We see Texas races in the pack. But if this guy is playing, old school Daytona, minding my own business, riding in the back of the pack, he could easily avoid a lot of the chaos. And through attrition, and as long as his truck holds up, which it has this season, then he's going to go from last to probably 26. That's 10 place differential points, 18 finishing position points. I think he's in play, folks. Spencer Boyd. He's been running at the finish in all 6 races. Now, the lead lap, no. But again, as I said earlier, he's not doing anything dumb. He's out there turning laps. He's slowly building this team. And one of the good things that they got going is that they are building equipment that's lasting the race. We don't want a mechanical failure. Someone's going to have a mechanical failure. Someone's going to wreck. Someone's going to have all kinds of issues. And if he's just out there churning and burning, and meanwhile people are spinning out and getting out of the groove and doing dumb stuff, he's going to walk his way into a pretty solid finish. And you can kind of see that last year. Now, he didn't maximize his finishing position like other drivers did at Texas last year, like you will see like a Mason Massey or some of the other drivers who, when the chaos happened, they kept pushing and they really got a very good result. And you can just simply tell, like, all right, he was just staying out of trouble all day long. And while that limits his upside, his floor was really safe in that race. And I would imagine that his floor is going to be really safe again in this race. Very low ceiling, because he's not going to be able to take advantage of the absolute carnage that happens. But then again, he did get a 5th place finish at Daytona this year. And if he takes a similar Daytona approach of just staying out of trouble, staying in the race, staying alive, waving around, lucky dogging, it's not terrible. Now, the next one is Lawless Allen. And if we look at Allen, Wrecked at Martinsville last week, or in the Martinsville race, but he did have a 24.7 average running position before that wreck. The bigger worry for me is that he does have mechanical failures this year at Coda and at Daytona. Those are spread out against two different crew chiefs. If you haven't noticed, Greg Ellie actually started out as the crew chief for Spencer Boyd, a separate team from Rayoum. And Ellie, for whatever reason, is out. He's now over with Rayoum and the AM22-ish truck. And Jeff Hammond has stepped in with Spencer Boyd. It's too early to see if there's ever really been a serious issue or any differences. The mechanical failures happened with his multiple crew chiefs here with Los Allen, so nothing really you can break down from that perspective, but there is a slight worry of mechanical issues. Maybe you don't want to overreact to a wreck at Martinsville where everyone was wrecking at the end. Allen was running well. So I don't know if I am overreacting to, he might race a little too hard. That's a question that you're going to have to ask yourself. But I do have a general sense of, we know for sure Moffitt's just out there turning. We know for sure Boyd's just out there turning. If this thing is close in the end and Los Allen is there, he's going to push it. And he has the potential to maximize points. But that also increases the possibility of him blowing your lineup up in the last 10 laps. That's just the reality of the situation. And he's still going to be in your board. He's going to still be in your pool because we have to find a ton of value for Busch. These are safer. All these guys up here are also going to push. If we wanted to categorize someone who's kind of in between, it's going to be Timmy Hill. Timmy Hill, as long as that truck is fine, which it should be a separate truck that they bring in for this race in Texas. Hill is going to play it safe as can be and probably not push as much, especially given the circumstances that he did just tear up a truck last week. That I would imagine him to be more on the safe floor, less upside play, which again, I don't mind this week going into Texas. Especially if we think there's going to be plenty of wrecks and plenty of chaos. I would prefer that. But again, he's in the pool firmly. Daniel Dye at 5,800. Brett Holmes. Brett Holmes probably would be your next step in terms of, all right, might push it a little bit, but also going to play quasi-safe. And, Holmes hasn't been great over the last couple of races. But again, when we look at the last couple of races, it's really hard to get a good read on some of these drivers, especially the small teams. When we're changing tracks and setups, and so the setups may not be great for a specific team. You go from a Las Vegas to a Bristol to a Coda to a Martinsville. Those are all completely different tracks. It's tough on the teams, and it may be tough for specific drivers. And to see Holmes be not very good in these races doesn't worry me. One benefit, though, or one positive, is he was good at Las Vegas, and he has tended to run well at the intermediate tracks. And I think he'll be a little bit more aggressive than Tim Hill, but also on the safer side. Now, as we go to the drivers that probably are just going to go ahead and push, Mason Massey and Daniel Dye. Massey's, as we've said before, and Young are 20th place drivers. And at 5,500, this is a very good discount. He is firmly on the board, finished 11th. When the chaos happens, as long as he is not the chaos, he can easily grab himself a top 15. Not the greatest driver rating, but he is getting decent finishes. And we like that. That's kind of what we're looking for in this Texas race. Maybe you're not a top 20 car, but you find a way through. Again, we can't be that picky when we're making these picks because we're being honest about what we're doing. We're punting 3 spots to get the Kyle Busch. To get a Bill McAnally truck at 5,800 is egregious. This price is way too low. It is way too forgiving. We will jump all over this unless, of course, Daniel Dye qualifies too close to the front and his point per dollar situation just isn't going to work out. but there's really no reason why Daniel Dye and a Bill McAnally truck should be at the price that it is. It's a steal, and you can play him and avoid a Lawless Allen. Maybe not have to take both Moffitt and Boyd. That is fine. Parsons at 6,000 in a truck that Parker Kligerman would routinely get top 15s. Parsons is about a top 20 driver. Again, this is too cheap. Connor Jones, this Thor part-time ride that gets kind of shuffled around, has been halfway decent, but it's about a 20th place truck. May actually be a better truck than that, but with inexperienced drivers like Connor Jones and his dad's money funneling in, it's not really produced the greatest results known to man. Mills still works in that value range as well. But again, if we're just needing people to finish the race, Matt Mills is not your guy. Now, you should say that at some point he is going to finish a race and luck will turn around. He provides enough savings that he works. Bailey Curry is just getting it done. He is a top 20 driver. As I said, he's top of the backpack. It may even be the bottom of the top pack. Chris Wright getting a chance in that Tricon truck that gets passed around a 15th to 20th place car. The problem with him and Garcia is that they may not quite give us the savings that we want. Once you start to get into Garcia and Wright, it's not that we can't get to Busch. It's that's going to limit our options up here. And if we've got a place differential driver that we're chasing, it's going to be real hard to get to Wright, really hard to get to Garcia. And how much upside do they really offer? Chris Wright, probably a 15th place car at best. Now, if it goes chaos, then Wright definitely can get into the top 10. But that being said, if it goes chaos, then a lot of these drivers down here can also get into the top 15. And so any gain for Wright is a gain down here, and you have limited your salary. Same thing for Garcia. It's been pretty disappointing this year. The move from McAnally to Thor has clearly been a lateral move and maybe even a step down for him. We expected more. Yeah, he did get a 5th in the Carnage last year, and he could get up there again this year. But I think the same thing that we said for Chris Wright, maybe a little bit more of a boost for Garcia. But again, if there isn't Carnage, Garcia doesn't do much, and you've spent too much money. If there is Carnage and he has a great race, then it's more than likely that some of these drivers also had a great race, and the lineups that had them can build with a more top-heavy lineup, and they probably are going to leapfrog you in the end. We'll play around with some builds here in a second. Just real quickly, you got Johnny Sauter jumping in with Nice at 7,000. That's not bad, but this might be a bit of a no man's land when you're building with Kyle Busch, just the way that it is. And 7,000 for a Nice truck, it's probably 15th at best. On this slate, I believe you're overpaying. On another slate, maybe at a short track, where Sauter might have a little more upside, it would be fine at 7,000, probably overpaying. Chase Purdy has been really strong with the former Cullig crew chief and Jason Trinchier, 7,200. Just want to touch base on that. Something to look at moving forward, but I don't know if he works on this slate. Now, that being said, if his qualifying position doesn't work out very well, you'd want to come back and explore. Taylor Gray is way too cheap, but he may also be in a price spot that it just doesn't seem to work. Again, 7,600 is way too cheap for Taylor Gray. His ownership may go low, though, because, again, it's no man's land. But it's really not, though, because let's go ahead and do that. He actually might be kind of the trick here in the building. As I said, you got 98.50 per driver. That kind of limits us from the 10.5 guys. But if I drop in Taylor Gray, I got 12.1. I can upgrade my value picks and still get to a Corey Heim, Majeski, or Christian Eckes. Say you don't like that floor. Let's go with Christian Eckes. I got $7,200 left. That Kyle Busch 14.5 is too low. Taylor Gray is too low. I can get the Chase Purdy. I can get the safe and secure Tanner Gray top 15. Sauter. I can get Bailey Curry and have tons of money left over. I can get Bailey Curry and upgrade and not have to go super ugly. We'll take out Boyd. We'll slot in Bailey Curry. I got 61. Now at 61, we can have some fun. Get to Parsons in the Henderson truck. I can get the safety of Hill, Brett Holmes, Massey. Not bad. Could be a lot worse. Let's see. We'll continue to mess around. All right, so that's not a bad build. Let's take out Eckes. Let's save a couple bucks, see if that changes anything. Like Nick Sanchez. I mean, he only got like 60 hog points at this race last year. Fast truck, 7,100 I can get up to. So again, Johnny Sauter's back on the board. Bailey Curry is still there. Don't want Dean Thompson. Like Jake Garcia did finish 5th at this race last year. Chris Wright, if you want to go to those two drivers, it's a possibility. I can now get up to Matt Mills if you're banking on Matt Mills finally turning it around. Maybe you like Connor Jones. I don't know if this is a significant upgrade, but you're getting a little bit higher up, and we're really only having to take one prayer driver. And you can swap out Moffitt, you can throw in Boyd, you can throw in Wallace Allen. Taylor Gray does seem like a really good way to unlock getting to the top. Let me look, though. Let's get out of Taylor Gray. Let me take 2 really expensive guys at the top. Let's see what it looks like. Just to play around with the triple punt. Ugly duckling build. So I got 10-7. If I take Sanchez, I can get to Heim, I can get to Majeski, I can get to Eckes. I would really like to see if I can build in a way that I can get, not with Taylor Gray, but also 3 really good drivers up here that I really like. Now, Matt Crafton has been very respectable. We'll slot him in. And I got 79. You can get to Stuart Friesen. You can get to Taylor Gray. And a strong argument can be made, especially in a race where there could be chaos, that, you know, Busch, Sanchez, Crafton all could be top 5 drivers. Friesen could be a top 5 driver. Big numbers in this race in 2022. Taylor Gray could be a top 5 driver. It's really not a terrible build by going with Boyd and Allen. We're taking the 2 cheapies at the bottom. We're only double punting. You know, Kyle Busch being 14-5 really opens things up. A lot of different ways to go. I don't need to go too much more into it. A lot of it is going to be decided when we see starting position. But we do know the general build, the general idea. I'm not really exploring the 0 Busch build. You can, because then the possibilities are kind of endless in the direction you can go, especially at a Texas race where I expect to be plenty of cautions, lucky dogs, waiver rounds, and value to have maybe not be predictable, but plenty of value to be on the board when everything is all said and done, when the dust settles. RaceForThePrize.com, that's where you can go to the fantasy NASCAR spreadsheet. Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, all that information is below. Monetization is pending. We've hit our numbers. The channel is growing, and that's because of you. You've decided to come over to this channel. You've decided to come watch these videos and subscribe and like, and I love you for it. I am blessed that you guys keep coming over. It is awesome, and things are changing. It's exciting times. Yeah, that's really all I got to say. Blessed to have you guys here. Love you guys. Trip to Lights, fantastic.